girl, welcome to On My Mark, your weekly transformational podcast designed to motivate, empower, and inspire to aspire. Yes, in that order. I am your host, Ravimbo C, and I'm a speaker by passion, philanthropist by purpose, and a Zimbabwean by tradition. I want to let you in on a little secret. This isn't your typical motivational podcast. This right here is transformational. So join me every Tuesday for your weekly dosage of inspiration. Hey girl, welcome back to season 2 of On My Mark. Excited is an understatement. I have literally been practicing like how I should do my opening line for season 2. So I've been like, hey girl, or like, hey girl, welcome to. I've literally been practicing because I'm like, okay, we're back season 2. Let's do something different. But guess what? I realized that we actually have a lot of male listeners too. Yes, our network is growing. So it's only fair if we say, hey guys, welcome back to season 2 of On My Mark. Welcome back, everybody. I'm so excited. It's your girl, Ravimbo C. We are back and we are ready to go. Last season, we had so much fun and we started on our transformation journey. And this season, we're going to continue on our journey, but we're going to be dealing with more personal development topics. Yes, we plan, we prepare, execute, we gotta persevere, and we gotta be resilient. All of that we spoke about in season 1 as part of the journey, but working on yourself is key. You gotta continuously work on yourself because if you are personally not okay, it's difficult for everything else around you to make sense. Okay, so today I want to talk about a topic that isn't normally discussed because we are always taught to do, push, persevere. But what happens when we've done, we've pushed, we've persevered as much as we can, but then you find yourself at a dead end, or you find that the idea isn't working, or the relationship is not working out. At what point do we draw the line and say, right, I think I need to start over? So I was curious. I was really curious to know people's thoughts on this. And I did a little poll. Can I say poll? So I did a little poll, or I posted the question on my social media pages. Yeah. Let's just call this section #Let'sConnect. The question was, do you consider starting over an act of giving up, like weakness, or a natural part of evolving, brackets, strength? Be that an idea or in business, a relationship, at what point do you draw the line and say enough is enough? So the responses that I got were quite interesting. And in this season 2, we're going to be connecting and we're going to be finding out what everybody else thinks about each topic that we discussed. So remember the question: do you consider starting over an act of giving up, as in weakness, or a natural part of evolving? Let's have a listen.
Okay, so I personally think that it's 50-50 in both situations. In a business, it could be absolutely necessary that you need to start over. You've just noticed that, everything's just going downhill and it's absolutely necessary. And at times it could be a weakness in a way that you're giving up too easily, because failures happen in business. It's not a smooth sailing road, there's ups and downs.
In a relationship, starting over could mean weakness, and starting over could also mean strength. Now, starting over in a relationship could be a sign that you're jumping from relationship to relationship. Every relationship comes with hard work. Do not be deceived. You need to learn to understand yourself, know who you are, and look at your own bad behaviors, your own negative behaviors, and strive to work on them to make it better. But if you find out that you get into a relationship and there's a little bit, there's a little friction, and instantly you just want to back out, you want to jump to somebody else, and start over with somebody else. Sometimes the problem could be you.
If it's a relationship, for example, it depends. There's so many factors that need to be considered. For example, if it was bringing about negative energy, you were no longer at peace, depends on whatever was happening that made you feel like you needed to start afresh. Perhaps you've moved to a new city, you've moved to a new country. That could contribute to you starting afresh. And I don't think that's a sign of weakness. In actual sense, it's a sign of complete and absolute strength in a person. Just having the guts in you to be able to start afresh, because starting over is really not easy.
The truth is, real success always comes through relationships. It always comes through the people you know and which doors they're going to open for you, which circles you're in, the kind of influence, the kind of associations you have. And so every time you step out and try, you've beat fear, you've gained confidence, you've gained experience, you have first-hand experience of whatever it is that you've done. You've also gained knowledge, and you also gain in just meeting people, in contacts, and networking. So I believe that if you look at it that way, then you'll see that starting over it's a beautiful thing, because then you have a clean slate with experience, as opposed to a clean slate where you have fear, you have no experience, you have no knowledge, you don't know what you're doing, you don't know if it's going to work or not. So I think it's a plus. I think it's definitely something that we should be okay with doing every now and then.
Okay. I have a feeling that these responses are going to get better and better and more insightful. But it's just great to tap into everyone else's thought process and way of thinking. And I'm sure somebody has picked up something from what has been said so far. I really would like to delve more into the relationship side of things too, because that can get really interesting. But anyways, we need a whole other episode for that. So we might have to come back into starting over when we're in regards to relationships on another episode. All right. So a lot of interesting points were raised that with business, it depends on the circumstances at hand. And I feel as long as you know ultimately your end goal and vision, where you're trying to get to, there's many ways of reaching your destination. It's not always a case of if one way doesn't work, then that's it. It's back to the drawing board. No. A sat nav, or I don't know what you guys call it, a TomTom, a sat nav, a GPS. A sat nav can take you in different routes just to reach the same destination. At times, it's a case of recalculating, turn left instead of right. And when you've missed your turn, make a U-turn when possible. Even if you get completely lost and you decide to start the journey over, never give up entirely on the destination. That is why knowing where you're trying to get to in life is important. Relationships, on the other hand, can get more tricky. And from listening to what we've heard earlier, I really think we're going to have an additional episode to this topic so we can get really into it. I'm serious. To me, happiness is important. Peace of mind is very important. I'm sure you can agree that relationships are complex. But here's a quote by Tara Love that sums up how personally I feel. We should fight for our relationships, but if fighting means ripping yourself to shreds and piggybacking all his or her demons, you need to leave. You can't change someone who doesn't see an issue in their actions. But check yourself. Maybe you're the problem and you need to work on you. Season 1, episode 11 is a good episode on self-evaluation if you gotta check yourself. Now, here's where I really want to go with this episode. This episode is titled Back to the Drawing Board, right? This is where I really want to go. I think when we're talking about starting over, it's important to mention factors that stop people from starting over. Factors that force commitment to keep doing something that you know is not working or is broken. Number 1, timelines. Number 2, what would people say syndrome. Number 3, fear. Number 4, expectations of your inner circle. Sometimes what would people say syndrome is killing a lot of us. Let's talk about this for a second. Do you know that a lot of people either prematurely get into marriages or businesses or relationships or situationships that they're not ready for simply because of timelines? Have you ever thought that maybe this is not working or this did not work because I was simply not ready yet or not prepared? Because I believe there's a season and time for everything. When I say timelines, I'm talking about other people impacting their view of when you must start something by, the age at which you should attain or do certain things by. So now you find yourself in a situation where you're rushing to beat the timeline. You just want to get into something, either that or they now start telling you that you've missed the so-called timeline. And now you find yourself worried, frustrated, and at times desperate. Listen, don't let people confine you with their timeline of success. Yes, from a young age, we all have an ideal age or time in your life when you want to achieve certain things by, age at which you want to get married, age at which you want to have kids, retire, start a business, graduate, tour the world for some of us. A graduation at 50 is still a graduation. A 3-year degree attained after 7 years is still a degree. A business started at 65 is still a business. Don't let people confine you with their timelines of success. It's never too late to start over. People will always dictate who you should be, what you should do, how you should act. People want you to be what suits them, basically. People will judge you no matter what. Whether you get a good job and make a lot of money, or a job that doesn't make the most money, they will judge you if you have kids too young for their standards, or if you don't even have kids. Whether or not you finish college, or if you make the decision that they feel is questionable simply because it would not fit well into their lifestyles. Listen, the list is endless. People will judge you no matter what. Move at your pace, at your own time, in accordance with your vision and where you're trying to get to. Life will teach you valuable lessons. Learn and keep going. Never shortchange yourself by giving up or giving in. People, before making a decision to start over, take time out to evaluate the situation. You got to be honest with yourself. It's not about what other people are going to think or what are they going to say. Just be honest with you. That internal dialogue that you're going to have with yourself at this point is very, very, very important. Ask yourself, am I personally ready for this? Am I personally ready to jump into this? Am I personally ready to start over and do this again? There's an article that I was reading by, what's her name? Michelle Lian, that said that it's okay to start over. It's a natural part of evolving into a smarter, better, stronger version of yourself. And no one should ever make you feel bad for wanting and needing to. At your lowest point, you may think that your life is ruined and there's no way out. But listen, it will pass. There's always a way forward. You just have to look for it. You can let the circumstances you're in ruin you, or you can allow them to improve you. Now, here's 5 quick tips on how you can start over. 5 quick tips of when you're starting over. Rather, I think that sounds better. Number 1, start with cleaning up your space. Listen, this is where you take time to work on yourself. Forgive, heal. If it's a relationship, heal. Forgiveness. Unforgiveness especially can keep you tied to your past even when you think you've moved on. For the sake of progress, clean up your space. Number 2, reflect on what and where you went wrong. No one starts out planning to fail or creating a disaster, but somehow we end up taking one or several steps wrong along the way and find ourselves in situations or places that we don't want to be in. So it's important to reflect on what has gone wrong so that you can be honest with yourself and re-strategize and move forward. Number 3, revisit your goals and your values. Once you've made that decision to start over and you said, okay, you got to revisit your goals and your values. I've always said you need to be clear about where you're trying to get to. Where's your destination? As long as the vision of where you're trying to get to is clear, you may take several routes to get there, but ultimately you will get there. Just don't give up. Number 4, work up the courage to do it. Sometimes when things have gone wrong and you've worked on a business, this happened to me. If you listen to episode 2 of season 1, I share my story of how I started a business, a hair business for that matter, and got the shop running, everything was moving swiftly, and then all of a sudden life happened and I had to shut the business down. Now I'm on to bigger and better things, but it took a lot of courage to sort of get over that setback that I had for me to be able to move forward. I think that's one very, very key thing. Like, you just gotta have courage to keep going, because if one thing doesn't work, then most certainly something else will. There's always something out there for you. Just a quick thank you to every single person who responded to our questions, everybody who sent through their thoughts, their views, and everyone that featured on today's episode. Keep a lookout for the questions before Tuesday, before every new episode. I'll be dropping some questions on my social media pages, so get involved, let's connect and get a chance to share your views, thoughts on the next episode. Join us again next week as we continue to transform and win. Be sure to subscribe on our website onmymark.co for weekly exclusives and giveaways. Until next time, own my mark, get set, let's go.